with the cabinet secretary. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that now, because we're going to hear what he actually said today.
Right.
I think other than the others on social media who have accepted and, thanked the president for the redeployment. Today we heard from Moses Kuria, and in typical fashion of Moses Kuria. But, this has also been a big move from trade and investment, and it's been, quite the ups and downs for this one. And for a very important ministry such as trade, which perhaps also has a certain element of diplomacy and, interactions with foreign nationals and investors and stakeholders from outside the country.
Right, and I think, give it to him, I think he's one of the most active cabinet secretaries, probably competing with Professor Kuria in terms of appearance and showing up at different places across the country. But also he was very visible, especially at the start of his tenure, moving across the entire world and trying to look for opportunities. And I think if there's one person that really enjoyed their brief and their job, then it has been Moses Kuria, with all the travels that he has made and getting opportunities to convince various investors across the world. But then again, you may have realized that the past few weeks, or maybe over a month, the traveling that he used to do has drastically reduced. I don't know whether it's because probably his first phase of the first year in office, the first phase was meant for familiarization, but also reaching out to the external world. But the travels that you used to see every now and then have drastically reduced. He has been more on the ground, especially the past 3 or so weeks that he has been unveiling the industrial parks. But you look at a person that quite understood his brief. And if you are to recall, even politically as a person, Moses Kuria, he was among the first to agree to fold his parties. The remind me the name of the political party that Moses Kuria was leading. Yeah, so he agreed to dissolve it. I don't know that that was eventually implemented. Seeming this is a person who was really ready to abandon his political ambitions in as far as leading a political party, to come and join hands with the president and the party UDA. To serve the Republic in his capacity. But again, there are certain things that have really worked against him, especially how he approaches public debates, public concerns. These speeches that he has made sometimes, including today, while he was speaking from Garissa, there are certain things that he said that are quite unpalatable. You can't even repeat them here. But it is the same fashion of him, and I think it would be important to listen to what he was saying. This is palatable now. It's safe to listen to. Watch.
Mimi nakuanga na maadui wengi na sijali, kwa sababu kwetu tunasema ndovu haiwezi kushindwa na pembe zake. Hata wakuje nani na nani, mimi kazi nitaendelea kutwanga, nitaendelea kunyorosha Kenya. And if you don't like me, anza kuadikia. I can bet one thing, wale wanasherekea ati mimi nilitolewa kwa hii wizara, within 6 months wataanza kwenda kwa rais kumwambia ai amezidi sana, mtoe hapa tena. They will be asking for another reshuffle in 6 months time. Wallahi, I promise you, because vile itatonga hii kazi na vile nitaruka hii Kenya kila pahali kuhakikisha kwamba serikali ya William Samoei Ruto imesucceed kwa ile mipango ambayo iliahidi watu wetu. My friend, mtosheke na mjue ya kwamba kama ulikuwa unasubuliwa na mimi nilikuwa na kabisa kamoja, sebuze saa hii mimi na coordinate wizara zote 22.
That is quite confusing. Is he happy for the docket, or is he complaining because of the reshuffle? But I think, you can make your own interpretation, because when he says that anza kuandikia rais na mtu, ndovu hashindwi na pembe zake, na mtaniona ile nitarukaruka hapa nikifanya kazi, that doesn't sound like happiness. Happiness is not made of that. But
Sam, you remember that video of that little boy who laughs and cries at the same time?
He didn't do that.
Well, yeah, that's probably it. But, even during his tenure, then we did see, and that was, brought up in our stories a little earlier, about his interactions even with, foreign nationals, Ambassador Catherine Tai, who was in the country. It's important to point out that Moses Kuria was missing from the president's extensive tour of the United States, where he was meeting, all of those in Silicon Valley. I think that was his San Francisco trip as well, and making many trade deals. And of course, the person that we saw was his trade advisor, who played a more prominent role. And what we then saw from Moses Kuria was taking up a more robust and visible role locally.
Right.
With all of those. And so, perhaps, this move is that, okay, so you're in the country, good. Okay, you stay here and you organize this. So we see what happens now with, him and organizing his public service delivery, because there's also been something that's been added towards the docket that he will now be handling. Can we talk a little bit about Alfred Mutua, who's now moved from...
Just a moment, Yvonne. Yes. I needed to clear, his political party was Chama cha Kazi.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Which, there was a resolution to dissolve it. I don't know that that was eventually done and that everyone who was in Chama cha Kazi moved into UDA.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting for him to say that in another 6 months you'll be calling for another reshuffle because of the work that he's going to do. I think he's a good worker when it comes to even explaining what the agenda of the president is and promising that he's going to execute it. I just think there's certain lessons that are being served in this reshuffle to him. How he dissects that or breaks that down to understand it is going to really influence his success in the next probably many months.
And well, maybe his statement today, anyway, lessons take time. We'll see if that changes, because it's also not just what he says when he's out, visiting various parts of the country. It's also what he puts out on Twitter. Some of the things that he says. We've seen him in a bit of an exchange with the Foreign Affairs CS when, he tweeted something about what was happening in Sudan. We've seen him tweet things about his boss, the deputy president, and then delete them. We've seen tweets in the middle of the night that are, ranting and raving. So, like I was talking about in the beginning, it's a reshuffle, yes, and you're moving people from one docket to another. Perhaps you feel they better fit, a different role. But it's also about how government is conducting itself and how, they're behaving. Because there's also, of course, the issue that we have seen about foreign travel and attempts to put that in order. So it's about how they work, how they perform their duties, how they express themselves out in public is one of those things we'll see. So let's move to Mutua for a moment. He's been in the Foreign Affairs docket. There have been some interesting things that have happened, with that, including Haiti, and that proposed deployment that has now been officially endorsed by the UN Security Council. And we heard from him that by January, that deployment could be coming soon.